Joining us now, another one of my great friends of all time. Joining us now, former House of Delegates member, former candidate for mayor. And I still wish he won that mayor's race, Mike, because had he done that, it would have been so much fun. He got so much done, but he'll be back. But he's with us now just a private practicing attorney. And by the way, does Joe have the best ads or what? Hey, just play his ad.
If you were in trouble, who would you call?
I call Joe.
Yeah, I call Joe.
I'm gonna call Joe.
I would definitely call Joe Morrissey.
He is a fighter in court.
Joe's a fighter.
Joe never gives up.
He's definitely on the people's side.
Oh, he's a fighter for the people.
Joe is the one.
If I'm going to court, I'm going with Joe.
Joe's one hell of an attorney.
I wouldn't trade Joe for nothing in the world.
If you're in trouble, call Fighting Joe Morrissey, 804-737-1096, 804-737-1096.
Okay, that's my favorite ad of all time. Joining us now, Joe Morrissey. Joe, Happy New Year, man.
John, Happy New Year to you, too. It seems like it's been ages since we've spoken.
So, look, we got a lot going on. Let's go to the General Assembly, right? It's opening tomorrow. You're not there. You're not in the House anymore. Prayer, breakfast tomorrow. The Republicans, at first they were kind of put out an olive branch, and Kurt Cox sent out a press release saying, congratulations, Shelley Simons, this 50-50. There's going to be a power share. We're going to work together. Now, not so much. Now we're hearing that they're going to behave like they had a supermajority under Speaker Howell. What do you make of it?
Well, I think that cooler, smarter, more pragmatic minds will prevail in the GOP, and I think they will realize this. Wait a second. We're here 51-49, but for the grace of God and a few votes here and there and a coin flip, we'd be power sharing or worse. And I think they're going to say, we have got to think of the future, the long term, not the short term. And I think Kurt Cox and some of the more pragmatic people will continue to extend that olive branch. And that's what I see. Larry Sabato put it best. He said, if the GOP, if the Republican Party does not extend that olive branch and have some type of acknowledgement that the Democrats had a 200,000 plus vote margin in the gubernatorial race and in the race in November, that they're going to lose in 2019. So I think that's what's going to happen. It's that simple.
What you're saying does make sense, because you have to respect the fact that the voters in Virginia made a statement, right? They want to change. Now, you can say that it was nationally induced. That's what the surveys say, that it was send a message to President Trump, et cetera. But still, you look at 2013, right? And McAuliffe beat Cuccinelli by what? 10,000, didn't he? 10,000.
It was like 2 points.
2 points. It was like 10,000, something like that. Maybe a little bit more. Somebody will have to check that for me. But, you went from 2 to 10. So you increased your margin, 5X, right? 500 times the margin. Percentage-wise, you go from, winning by 2% to winning by 10%, winning by, I think it was maybe 20,000 to 200,000. That's a message that they're sending. And so, that's the argument that says there should be some power share. But a couple of Democratic consultants, Joe, I want to get your take on this, have bitterly criticized the chaos in the Democratic House caucus, and they're blaming Toscano and said that there's such a struggle in there for getting their act together. I know there's a lot of them said they would vote for Ken Plum, who I know that quite well. Is the Democratic caucus and how they've behaved so far, led by Toscano, is that some of the issue here?
I think it is. First of all, I know Plum. I was his desk mate for a couple of years. And here's the thing. Toscano, and I'm just, John, you and I, when we talk on your radio show, it's just like we talk in my living room. I'm very candid.
Right.
I'm a Democrat, but I'll be very clear. Toscano is not a leader. He's not the individual who the Democrats need to be their titular head. It's that simple. While Plum has a lot of experience, he's the longest-serving member of the General Assembly. I think he's better equipped. But there's another person I'm going to put out there who I think is young. He's been in there now for at least 8, maybe 10 years, who I think would make a terrific leader for the Democratic Party, and that's Patrick Hope out of Northern Virginia.
I agree 100%. I agree.
Be
I agree.
superb.
You know, I had him on my show a week ago, I think, and we asked him that question, and you know, he gave the politically correct answer. But I mean, I think you have nailed it. I think if you look at all the Democrats right now in the House caucus, you know, Hope would be the best leader, because you're right. He's young, he's articulate, he's passionate, he can talk to people, and look, you can't make leadership, right? I mean, you just can't make it up.
Right. Patrick can talk to people on both sides of the aisle. He can listen to both sides. He's not strident. He's not acerbic. He is pleasant. He is affable. I think he's got all the qualities to be a great Democratic leader. And if the Democratic Party, wants to go forward and look to 2019 and beyond, Patrick is the clear choice. Let me say this too. Remember, there were some very, very close races that went against the Democrats. And these are races where Toscano and the Democrats didn't even fund people. You take Riley Ingram's district, where he was running against Sheila Bynum Coleman. Sheila lost by 2.5 points with no money from the Democrats. They lost a very narrow race in that Chesterfield race, where incumbent Republican Roxanne Robinson won. There was 2 other very close races that the Democrats didn't even fund. Had they done that, had they given each one of those candidates $20,000, man, the Democrats have a 2 to 4 seat margin in the House. And you know that Simons is going to be back again. That 94th district is going to be back. So that's why I say all these close races, the Democrats are going to be lining up for 2019. And if there becomes a perception among the electorate out there that, whoa, the Democrats with a razor-thin margin are bullies, and they're not reaching out, then it will hurt them tremendously in 2019. It's that simple.
Look, I think you nailed it. Joe, look, I'm with you on this. And I remember on election night, we thought Riley Ingram was going to lose. We thought Bill Thomas was going to lose in the 28th district, Bill Howe's district. We thought Roxanne was a dead duck. This is about like 9:30 p.m. It looked like all these candidates were going down. We thought Glenn Davis was going to lose in Virginia Beach at about 9:30 also. So, look, there's a couple of these races. You're right, Toscano didn't fund it all. And
how about Delegate Hugo?
Yeah, that's another one. I mean, we thought he was going to lose, right? So there's
just
4.
mentioned 5 candidates, 5 Republicans you thought that won very, very narrowly. Don't you think that they're going to say to themselves, wait a second, if I don't reach out across the aisle, I could be axed in 2019?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, there's an argument to say the Democrats have spoken, but I think what the Republicans are saying, they're mad about all these lawsuits that are being filed. And so I think their position, and I've not talked to the leadership, so I'm giving you anecdotal information, which I hate to do on the radio, but from the anecdotal information I've heard, not from Kirk Cox or from Tim or from the other members of leadership, is that they feel they have to go forward as if they have the majority and get things done and to prove back to the people that they're a better governing body. So that's the other side of the argument. It's like, if you don't go all in, you're going to lose kind of argument.
Well, they've got the majority, so they are going to be the governing body. But remember, you can govern, and you don't have to do it with a huge club.
Right.
You can do it, and you can do it amicably. You can be pleasant. You can be a Patrick Hope or a Bill Stanley, somebody where people on both sides of the aisle like.
Right.
If you do it club-like, the way the R's have done it for the last 10 years because they had a supermajority, you are going to, reap untold penalties in 2 years.
Right.
There's a silver lining in this. The best thing that could come out of it would be some good legislation where the people says, this is long overdue. Number one, redistricting reform. Both parties need to get on the bandwagon. It's usually the party out of power that wants redistricting reform, but right now I think it's so close that's a real possibility. Let's take this redistricting out of the power of politicians, put it into an independent commission so that politicians stop, deciding who they want to represent and let the electorate decide who they want to represent them. That's one thing. Number two, get this money, campaign money, out of the hands of utilities and powerful corporations and where they buy access to legislators. Stop it. Get rid of it altogether. And lastly, the third piece of strong legislation would be if they allowed the State Corporation Commission to again exert its lawful role over monopolies and allow them to order refunds to consumers if warranted. Those three things, and if both parties got behind it, I think would be magnificent for the Commonwealth.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Joe, let's get to the report card on Governor McAuliffe. So he's got a couple of days remaining in the mansion. My lovely wife Ann and I are going to his farewell bash on Wednesday night. How would you rate Governor McAuliffe's tenure and his legacy, Joe, for Virginia as governor?
I think at the end of the day, you've got to give him positive marks. That's not coming from a Democrat to another Democrat, but it's somebody who I think just analyzes. You've got to give him positive marks. He has, I think, had several accomplishments and some hiccups or failures, like not getting his Medicaid reform bill through, which he had trouble because of a Republican-controlled Senate and House. But he's a very, as you know, affable, positive, lets the glasses half full guy. And I think, the economy has done well under him. There have been no major snafus. I'll give you an example. Towards the end of Rob's gubernatorial term, you had the prison breakout on death row. There's
right.
always, I thought Governor McDonnell was a very, very good governor, but he had that problem at the end with, the troubles that he got into. McAuliffe has been able to avoid a major snafu.
Right.
He's got thick skin, and I think he has acquitted himself well, and I think he'll go down in history as far more positives than negatives. I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. I would agree with that. No major scandals. Jobs have grown. And, what I try to do with the governor is look at what he's done for Virginia and separate out the politics. There's a lot of people aggravated about, some of the political things he's done. But that had nothing to do with governance of the Commonwealth. So if you got to separate those out. If you can do that and give an honest assessment, I think he's got a pretty solid legacy, no question. Now, I've only got a minute. I understand you may have an announcement to make.
We're expecting another one literally any hour, any day. And Myrna and I are expecting our third child, and we're really blessed, John. We're very happy. And I was down in Cumberland County yesterday before in court for Judge Blessing, and I made one objection. A Commonwealth did something, and I said, Judge, I got three reasons. Number one, the cross-examination goes beyond direct evidence. Number 2, she's getting into evidence that we haven't discussed before. And 3, I'd like to get back to Richmond tonight because my wife is due. So let's move this case along. But yeah, we're expecting our third child, John, and we're ecstatic.
All right, look, we've got to get up there, Joe, and have dinner again. And Ann was asking me about it the other day, so let's get that done. And look, appreciate you coming on. I just got to ask one final question: did the judge sustain your objection?
He did, and he said to the Commonwealth, "Let's move this along." And he's, very affable judge, and he just gives everybody their day in court. And it was a pleasure to be up in Cumberland County. So, and it worked out well. We won the hearing, fortunately, got a bond for our client, and we moved on.
There it is. Fighting Joe Morrissey. More information, go to attorneyjoemorrissey.com, attorneyjoemorrissey.com, a lifetime friend of the John Fredericks Radio Network and a good friend of mine. And Joe, you keep fighting for what you believe in. I have a tremendous amount of respect for what you've done. Let's have dinner the next couple of weeks, all right?
We'll do that, John. And one final thought: when you're ahead of the game, keep your pedal to the metal and keep going forward. Do not take your foot off the gas. That's when you lose. That's
what hurt the Georgia Bulldogs yesterday. And as a younger basketball coach, I can't tell you how many games I blew in the fourth quarter by changing up what got me the lead. It's really dumb, but it's tough to just get the discipline to say, I'm going to keep doing what got me here right till the final whistle. Joe, I got to take off. Thanks for being with us, Joe Morrissey.
You got it, John. Have a great morning.
Okay.